Okay, here we are. Alt.nerd.obsessive. Worst episode ever.
Hey everybody, welcome to Worst Episode Ever, a podcast for people who love The Simpsons, by people who love The Simpsons, that's us, about how much we hate The Simpsons. We're on a mission to find which episode is the worst episode ever. My name is Dan.
My name is Jack.
And today we have a very special episode. Well, it's not that special. It's largely forgettable, probably. It's called Large Marge. Episode from season 14, originally aired in November of 2002. Jack, have you seen this one?
I have. I've seen it. I don't know if I saw it when it aired, but I've definitely seen it 2 or 3 times in syndication at this point.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one for us to talk about. We love talking about Marge.
Yeah, haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah, I saw this one when it aired. I saw it November 24th, 2002. It was one of the last episodes I watched when The Simpsons was first airing. 2 episodes after this, I think, is the one that made me swear off The Simpsons for a while, which we'll get to eventually. This is an episode where Marge gets breast implants.
Yeah.
That's the...
And as you guys know, any faithful listeners, we love when they sexualize Marge.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Oh, we love it. So thanks for listening and for downloading the show. We're going to take a moment right now to actually watch the episode, and we will be back to discuss the episode.
Technically, we're going to take like 20 minutes worth of moments. It's not one moment.
Through the magic of editing, it's going to seem as if it's only a moment to you.
And then through the magic of editing, we're going to seem like we talk about the episode for 7 hours.
And then we're going to talk about Spider-Man for 27 hours. All right, I don't know what's happening. We're going to take a break now and watch Large Marge. You can watch it on simpsonsworld.com if you have not seen it ever before, or maybe don't. I don't know if it's any good. We're going to tell you.
Well, watch the episode. What we say will make a lot more sense.
It will enrich the show.
Yeah.
All right, taking a break.
All right, see you guys soon.
Accidentally giving me breast implants is not a simple misunderstanding. My surgery was botched.
Botched? What is that, the word of the day?
You had no right to make my bosom this ample.
Look, just come back in 48 hours, I can remove the implants.
Well, I'll come back all right, and I'll bring my husband to do a little malpractice on you.
Yes, your husband. I'm sure he's going to be furious.
So, that was Large Marge.
Large and in charge Marge.
Large and in charge. In charge of
Large
our
Marge,
days and our nights.
That's right. With our buddy Lembex until...
Yeah. Real quick, before we get into the show, we have a guest with us. He was here last week. Welcome back, Mr. Brice Canedo-Pullan.
Hey, thank you very much.
We didn't let Brice leave.
Yeah,
he's been locked in the studio all week.
Yeah.
Please send help. Call 911. I have not eaten in a week.
But you look so thin.
Well,
Speaking of which,
we'll get into that.
good segue.
So a lot of body image things going on in this episode. It's
Yes.
So basically the plot is it starts off with Homer and Lisa watching something about Dewey and Truman's election for some reason.
Yep.
For whatever reason, it transitions into them going to Habitat for Humanity, or the Simpsons version of that. Insert bad joke here.
Yeah.
So they go there. Homer is these 2 women come to apparently looking for guys because it's a charity. I guess that's where they're looking. It's Cookie Kwan and
Your favorite.
yeah, Minzy Nagel.
Lindsay Nagel.
Lindsay Nagel.
Minzy Nagel is the guy in
is
Arizona
Southwest-
now.
is
Yeah,
Southwest Texas guy?
Polo, Texas guy.
Okay, so it was the real Lindsay Nagel, who is a character who is on the show apparently, and
Not a fictional
yeah.
character like Minzy Nagel.
So they're flirting with Homer, looking for a guy, and Marge shows up, and because of hijinks, it looks like Homer is flirting back. So Marge basically feels insecure and that Homer doesn't love her. Which, after 2 weeks ago, after we watched this episode where Homer is the worst husband, it's kind of terrible. But yeah, Marge wants to do more to be more attractive to Homer. So she actually goes to get liposuction, so she could lose weight, so that she could be attractive to Homer.
Right, who is an overweight man.
Yeah, you are hearing me say this right. I'm not screwing up this plot. And then she accidentally gets breast implants. She
big fake ones.
She finds that they help a lot in her life.
She
likes
finds
the
that
attention.
she likes having them. Yeah.
She likes the attention. She likes the boost in confidence and such. So she keeps them, but eventually she realizes the attention is not great, and she doesn't want them anymore.
Yep.
And she gets them removed. And that's the episode. There's a B plot where
there's some bullshit with Bart Milhouse.
yeah, there's some bullshit with Bart, Milhouse, Krusty, and the return of fan favorite Stampy.
Right. We'll definitely talk about that.
And we'll get all into this. So how do you guys want to start up the show?
Let's just end it here. This has been the worst episode ever.
Still haven't found an ending, but
And here we go. Should we just start at the very start? You want to talk about that Lisa and Homer scene?
Sure, I want to do like the Alice in Wonderland quote. I forget who's like the Mad Hatter. It's like, you should start in the beginning and end in the end.
All right.
That's my Mad Hatter.
That's very good. It's better than Johnny Depp. So
Thank you.
so it starts off with Lisa and Homer are watching the History Channel. And it was about the election of Truman, and famously the papers accidentally printed Dewey defeats Truman, and it was a whole big thing.
We have an accidental presidential theme running throughout this month because last week we did the Roosevelts.
So they like bet on. Homer says like, I bet Dewey wins, and then for some reason Lisa's like, I win the bet because Truman ended up winning, and that's what brings them to work in the Habitat for Humanity thing.
It didn't.
Weird way to get there.
It was a weird way to get there. It wasn't. The whole scene was kind of fatty and airy. It wasn't tight.
Yeah.
I really liked when Homer's like, he's like, Dewey's gonna win, and Lisa's like, no, and then it says Dewey defeats Truman, the famous headline,
right?
And Homer like actually celebrates, thinking it's the actual headline. Like I like that he woohooed the Dewey. Like that was
that was fun.
That was a good moment.
But it had like 40 seconds on the beginning and 40 seconds at the end that needed to be, but it's not there.
It felt like a joke that somebody had written that they wanted to put into a show, and they put it in at the head of a show, and it didn't have anything to do with what was going to happen.
Yeah, it's like, how do we open this episode with Marge getting breast implants? Dewey defeats Truman, obviously.
It could have easily started with the Habitat for Humanity scene, right?
It could have, but there's one thing I did like. It kind of brought back like the daddy-daughter day kind of thing, because Lisa says like, oh, I get to pick what we do on this day. And I thought that was
nice.
Sweet. It's always nice to see Homer being a good father and not a monstrous, horrible person.
But even then, if they had set it up as
it
was their father-daughter day,
that would have been great.
And then he wanted to. They were butting heads over what to do.
Yeah.
And he was like, the show happened to be on, and he was like, I bet you, whatever.
Oh, that's true.
Something that would have led into it to make it justified that they were having this joke happen.
Right.
The show should have opened with the two of them watching football, Homer realizing he can gamble on football, but then decides he'd rather gamble on a 60-year-old election.
That's right.
That's how it should have been.
That's how it should have been. And then he gets his hands broken by the mafia.
Yes.
Right. So then that's it for that. It moves into this. It wasn't Habitat for Humanity. It was something.
They had a name.
It was something forgettable.
Domiciles for the Destitute.
Yeah. So it's the same but different.
Yeah. That's.
Isn't it funny how they looked up words in the thesaurus?
Yeah. Nice one, guys.
That's a very amusing observation.
I concur.
Right, but Homer, he's working in this domiciles for the destitute, I guess, building a house, and he's painting a house, and he says he's going to take his wedding ring off. Although,
before that, let's go back.
Yeah, Lisa says, "What are you painting?" And he's giggling into himself. We don't see what he's painting.
Well, if Bart can be El Bardo, I can be, and we see, and he's painted El Homo on the side of the building, which means the man.
Which you may or may not know, but homo is slang for a homosexual person, and that's why it's funny. Because he's saying that he's the gay.
I'm not up with the lingo. I didn't know that.
Well, in case you didn't get it, they bring out a very stereotypical gay man to be like, oh.
That's because when they brought him out, it's like, oh, now I get it. It's biting social commentary.
Yeah, right. There almost seemed to be a way that they could have done the joke that would have been like a funny way to do it. The idea of him...
The idea of the Homer version of
turning it
into
being El Homo.
Right. And Homer not realizing it.
And Homer not really just realizing it and just going on with it.
But it was...
The whole way it happened, like painting it on the wall. And
it's just, here it is. It was funny, right?
Yeah, and like literally Lisa like coming up and saying, what are you painting? It might as well have been like... it's just like, hey, Homer, I hear you've got a joke for us.
Right, especially since Lisa could see what he's painting and doesn't need to ask, what are you painting? It's words, Lisa. You can read.
Yeah, it really...
And then a Hispanic, ostensibly gay man comes up and says, I wish I had your courage. And Homer freaks out and goes into a little gay panic.
The gay panic.
That's because he's learned nothing from John Waters.
Which it might even have worked if he didn't panic and just didn't even get it.
That would have worked much better.
Didn't even get.
Take Lisa
thank
out.
you.
Take Lisa out completely.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I had your courage. Oh, thank you. He doesn't. And then we pull out to see that he's written El Homo.
Yeah. It could have been Homer painting and being like, Bart's not the only one that could have tags or what nicknames.
Right.
And then have the gay guy come up to him. And
You're right, because that's the part that doesn't work when Homer's like, oh no, and he has to like cover it up, and he's like, oh,
that doesn't work.
Homo.
And Lisa doesn't work.
I mean, it's a bland like.
I mean,
lazy. It's a lazy joke.
This is radical. They could maybe just not do gay jokes at all.
Yeah.
But
I mean, but then what do we talk about on this podcast?
Yeah. And let's be real. It's not like the joke is stunningly offensive. It's just I'm like yeah,
lazy.
okay.
Yeah.
This is lazy.
It's like when you're in 3rd grade and you're like, oh man, is Homo sapiens, and you're like, oh, Homo sapiens, right?
Yeah.
I can see your epidermis is showing.
We've seen gay jokes that we didn't mind, that maybe we've even laughed at. We've seen gay jokes that were just outright offensive. I'd say this was towards that, but not. It was more on that side of the spectrum, but not that.
It was cringeworthy.
Yeah, it was.
I cringed.
Yeah,
I crunged.
It was a bad joke.
Yeah.
It just wasn't good. It did. I mean, if it's gonna be a good joke and make you laugh, it can get away with a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
So
the women show up.
Cookie Kwan and Lindsay Nagel.
Which I didn't realize was Cookie Kwan on like many episodes.
She's also a recurring character. Yeah.
Because obviously she started in the Realty Bites episode.
She's about as common as Gil. She turns up here and there.
So that episode was big for launching characters,
right? So they're man hunting. Now we're gonna get into, because this is an episode where Marge gets breast implants and likes the attention. So we're gonna get into probably some feminist and sexism conversations soon.
And I think that as 3 men, we are the most qualified to talk about that.
Yeah,
Three white men are probably the
3
best
heterosexual
experts,
white men.
the best experts you could have on oppression and systematic oppression.
I think it's safe to say that we know the best, and that we whatever we say should pretty much be the de facto defense. And
don't worry, ladies, we're here to speak for you.
Yeah,
that's right.
So that's all. Don't even bother commenting on that website. Just let the guys take it from here.
Just to be clear, we're being sarcastic.
I hope everyone realizes that we are being sarcastic.
I just want to be above board.
It's we haven't had any female guests on the show yet. We plan to.
We will.
We consider ourselves fairly progressive guys. We do kind of want to diversify the types of people we have. Brice just happened to be nearby, so he
was locked in the studio. Of course.
No, but we when we were watching this, we were like, you know what? It would have been nice if we had a female perspective. And if we had more time, maybe we would have gone back and gotten one.
Right.
But so. We understand. We understand the way we're going to be talking about this stuff is, unfortunately, it's from our perspective, and that's it. That's all we've got.
Well, right. And give your perspective on
yeah,
comments.
So we'd love to continue this. And that goes for
if you think Jack is an idiot, go on there and tell him that you hate him.
Comment right now.
That's its own separate page, I believe. It's the traffic.
Worst Jack ever.
Well, we're gonna set that up.
A Picone podcast.
As long as the link to the pickles on Amazon.
We'll have pickle links everywhere.
This goes for any episode, any topic conversation. We'd love to continue. There's so much. Even when we run a half hour long, there's still stuff we haven't gotten a chance to talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on.
We'd love to talk more in the comments.
It's like an onion. There's layers upon layers.
Engage with us there. Yeah, engage with us there. Engage with us on Facebook, whichever. Not on Twitter. I still can't figure it out. I don't know what I'm doing. But if you have to, you have to. No, so anyway,
they show up.
We're going to be talking about sexism and feminism. I don't know. So you have these 2 women, and they're kind of man-hunting. Now, is this... See, this is where it would help to have a woman. I couldn't tell if this is a sexist portrayal of women, because it's like, oh, look at them looking for a man, they got nothing better to do. Or is this a specific type of woman that does exist and is perfectly fair game?
It didn't strike me as sexist, because they are established characters who are both very career-oriented women. So
I guess because the way they're looking for a man is part of their 5-stage plan.
Exactly. They're not
looking for love. They're like, okay, here's how you find a man. Right. You go to a charity and you find someone playing with a kid who doesn't have a wedding.
They have a checklist of qualities in which they were like, and they weigh the pros and cons. They're like, well, he isn't very attractive, but he is a good father. So he meets the
So is that good character work, or is that bad stereotyping all career-oriented women into that slot?
I personally would say I would lean towards good character work because, like I said, these are established characters who we know.
But I kind of wish they had better established characters, a little bit stronger, like Miss Krabappel or someone. But she's already kind of gotten the taint of being the hussy, like someone more neutral. Like Cookie Kwan, Lindsay Nagel, they're not.
That's a good point that you bring up Miss Krabappel, because Miss Krabappel has been shown in a number of episodes to be kind of like man-hungry and very lonely. And now you're taking two characters who weren't known for that and kind of adding that now on top of their characters. So you're kind of making it all women are men-hungry. Yeah. So I've changed my mind.
That's what I'm saying. Because the characters, it's great that they are established characters, but they're not the most established characters. What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
I mean, it's a hard question. It's obviously we can't tell the intention of the writers. They could just as easily have had them already there and both picked up on Homer
they draw
being there.
Them. It's not like they're available to record the episode.
This is a documentary.
They could have easily had them at the domiciles for the destitute, also doing volunteer work, and looking over and being like, "Oh, look at that man!" Like
not like cruising.
That would have been
for men.
But here's the question: is that would have been the most generic, easy way to do it. And so they clearly wanted to make a joke. They clearly had a reason for having them show up looking for like men, which seemed to be because it was a character point, not because it was just the easiest joke to make.
Right.
So I mean, I'd score a little bit for them being like, oh, this is what these two women are like, but I don't know.
I think
it's a little.
I think.
It was a little unnecessary to begin, like, because I say they could have, both of them could have just been there doing stuff. Like there was it wasn't particularly funny that they showed up looking for men at a thing like that.
Let's put it into context though. What this is doing, having them there flirting with Homer, is just to drive Marge to become jealous.
Yes.
So that's definitely a problematic
right there.
thing.
Yeah. I think it's not as cynical as it could be. I think maybe we were being slightly too hard. I think if the characters were just a little bit more drawn out, we wouldn't have maybe even noticed. It wouldn't have been as much of an issue. I think so. I think we could say. I think as usual, our answer is maybe.
Yeah.
Done. Bring it up.
We've just solved.
We've solved sexism. See you later, glass ceiling.
And now we'll do like a crash glass sound effect.
Crash right here.
By the way, when we say pop, 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 when we shoehorned in, that's the glass ceiling. That's what we're popping.
That's right.
Every week.
Popping the balloon glass ceiling.
Yeah.
That's exactly
the glass balloon ceiling.
So
that's the episode title.
So
glass balloon ceiling.
So next scene is Marge in the car. She's listening to Disney radio where they do Disney-fied covers of songs. They're doing "Who Left the Milk Out."
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I love that Marge loves it.
Yeah.
And then I love that Maggie hates it. Because that's very in keeping with Marge as we know and love her.
Yes.
Like, Marge likes dumb, boring,
not only does she love it,
things.
I love that she says it's good satire. Like the idea that...
But nobody... And nobody gets hurt.
Because,
That her version of, like, good jokes are the ones where, like, nothing particularly funny happens.
It's not making fun of Baja Men. It's very clean. She would not like our podcast, even though we're constantly telling her that...
Even though we love her.
She shouldn't have posed in Playboy and
no,
I really like the fact that she said it. Anytime you have a "Who Let the Dogs Out" parody, of course, it's kind of a bit of a groan.
Well, and this was not even just a parody; it actually was the Baja Men.
Which I believe they've done at least 2 or 3 episodes. It's kind of weird.
Really?
Yeah, they're kind of.
This is one of 2 songs they did in this episode.
Yeah,
and one of 3 songs overall in this episode.
I think they might be friends with somebody on the show or something. I feel like I've read that somewhere.
Yeah,
I'm glad someone is friends with the Baja Men.
But so we kind of like that.
I kind of like that.
We like the satire.
I also. It had been a while since I'd seen this episode, but I remembered that it was where Marge gets breast implants. I liked that when she does show up at the Habitat for Humanity thing, it made sense because she feels her relationship to Homer is threatened. Yeah. And that gives the through line for the rest of the episode, at least for the next beat into the next act where she wants to improve herself. Whether that's good or not, we'll get into, I'm sure. But I liked it was more plotting.
Right.
Yes. The impetus didn't bother me.
Yeah.
It was the result.
It's where it goes.
It's where it goes that I thought was like just bizarre and.
But I liked that Marge felt threatened, and that was a good, believable kind of setup to the episode.
And it would be a lot better. I mean, you can't really blame other episodes for, Simpsons is not a serial show. It's, every episode unto itself, which is kind of the whole point of this podcast.
Yeah.
But, if Homer was a genuinely better husband, it would be a lot easier to swallow.
Right. If he didn't,
Yeah, if you guys hadn't just a few weeks ago done an episode where Homer is just awful.
The worst character.
The worst husband. No, the worst husband.
The worst person.
I mean, I guess the fact that he's doing Daddy-Daughter Day and doing charity work while offending the gays.
Yeah, Homer. The gay jokes aside, Homer is pretty good in this episode.
All right, so
that's not true.
we're not
Never mind.
So
Later
we're
on,
not
it's not so
totally against this idea of Marge getting jealous.
Or feeling insecure in her relationship.
That's fine, yeah. It's
and that's not necessarily a thing that's not a Marge thing to do, is to be concerned about the state of her
She
marriage.
has been before,
I feel like as much as I do like the Baja Men and the satire joke, that scene maybe should have played more into her insecurity. It could have been like she's had a really bad day with the baby, and like she looks like a mess. There's puke on her shirt, something like that.
Yeah.
So that like she really shouldn't feel insecure. She's a good looking lady.
She's a good looking lady, but
and
I actually kind of like that she's she's in a bubble. She's listening to this terrible song, and she's like, "Oh, let the milk out," and she's like into it, and then she's like, "Oh," and it's like all of a sudden the brakes are hit, and her world is like crashing a little bit.
That sells me. I agree.
Yeah.
So now Marge is insecure. I don't really have.
Yeah.
Homer is not good at reassuring her.
Right. And then that's when I thought it started to get a little iffy. Because Marge is worried about the relationship, but instead of it being on Homer, like, why, are you satisfied? Why are you flirting with these women? It became kind of internal, where she was like, I'm not enough for my man.
Right.
Which I think that's a problem.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking. So the Cookie Kwan, Lindsay Nagel thing, that was really
that's
like
the tip of the iceberg.
That's the tip. That's like 5% of the sexism and feminism issues we're going to get into at this show. It's really more about a Marge, obviously, and you're completely 100% right. Like, so we just said Homer was a fucking awful husband 2 weeks ago.
She has been for seasons now.
So the fact that she thinks she needs to be better for him is just downright offensive. Again, this is a different Homer. This isn't the Homer from Bonfire of the Manatees. This is the Homer from this episode.
3 seasons before.
So, it's we shouldn't be that. It's not that ridiculous. But in general, Homer is like, that's a defining characteristic. Is that
but even just physically, Homer is an overweight man,
bald,
which is okay if Marge loves him for who he is. That's great. But then she shouldn't get upset like if she's gained a few pounds and think that he's not going to be attracted to her.
Right.
He should be worshiping her feet, and sometimes he does.
Right.
She can have her own body image problems. It's just a very weird it's a very weird place to take The Simpsons, where she has a body image problem when nothing significant has caused her to really have a body image problem.
Yeah.
It felt like she would have been more worried about being attentive to Homer, or being distant from Homer, or Homer not being around as much, or intimacy in their relationship. Because it wasn't as if he was talking to two scantily clad women in bikinis.
That's a good point.
She immediately internalizes as like, "Oh, I'm not, like, what's wrong?" Well,
something's wrong.
It wasn't Cindy.
And the thing is, she's like, it doesn't get into the real body image issues until she meets with Apu's wife. Right. But initially, she's like, are you as attracted to me as those women? And
why is that the first thought?
It's a very weird.
You're right. Like, not what the fuck were you doing with those women, you asshole.
If they were really attractive women, it would make more sense. But why is that the first thing she thinks of? Is, oh, I must be ugly.
Yeah. Or you're not attracted to me. I mean, it's not a bizarre thing for a person to say, but this is The Simpsons. This isn't a regular real life.
This
sitcom.
isn't My So-Called Life.
Right. That's what I'm saying, Jack.
That's the wrong podcast. I'm looking for My So-Called Podcast.
So that's a great name. I think now the next scene is where she bumps into Manjula.
Yes.
Which I really.
She's walking. Right? She's out with Manjula. No. That's not the next scene.
That's not the next scene, because
the B
there's a Bart
story
Millhouse
comes
scene
in.
that starts the B story.
Right.
Do we want to just? Should we talk about that separately?
Yeah, let's talk about
the Marge stuff first.
Let's stick on the Marge stuff for now.
Sure.
just to keep it clean.
So yeah, eventually she's walking in the park with Manjula.
Yeah. By the way, Jan Hooks did her
I
voice,
wrote
and
that
she died a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've brought it up on the podcast. So it's just big Jan Hooks fan. We both grew up on 90s SNL, early 90s SNL. All three of us. We're big Jan Hooks fans in general. She, I was never crazy about Manjula on the show. Like I said, I don't like any characters that appeared after season 8, but she did solid work.
I don't like anything new.
And it's a shame that this is the episode we're bringing it up because her character's awful in this episode.
Yeah, she is.
But R.I.P. Jan Hooks, she did great work as Manjula.
Before we talk about that, though, there were two things I wanted to bring up sort of around Manjula. The first was Marge brings up that Apu cheated on her. What episode was that?
I don't know. I remember it. I remember it. I don't remember what episode.
Which
that seemed weird to me.
Yeah, I thought that the way they wrote that in was kind of chuckle worthy. The way she's like, do you remember when your husband? Essentially, she's like, do you remember when your husband cheated on you? In that sort of Marge oblivious way, but it was still a little. Usually, you'd think Marge would have a little more
Marge
tact.
has a little more sense.
That was more of a meta joke, from my understanding. Is just referencing.
Yeah, I just couldn't remember.
Is that the Valentine's Day episode with Elton John, or is that different?
No.
Okay, I remember that.
Listeners, tell Jack which one it is.
On worst Jack ever. Please, anytime all corrections.
Worst Jack
go right to worst Jack ever.
gmail.com.
We're gonna have to get that email address.
Yeah, it's gonna fill up quick.
Oh yeah,
get the extra.
I'm just gonna email it every day.
Some other depressed Jack out there is gonna get 3 emails.
I'm gonna get emails from my dad, get a better job.
Well, now I feel bad for you, Jack. We'll have best Jack ever.
I don't know if this is my son, but it certainly could be his email.
If it's from my dad, it'll be all in caps. Spacebar! !
Forward.
The other point I wanted to make about Manjula was it's interesting that they brought in Jan Hooks just for this one scene. She had 3 lines. Yeah. She was terrible. Not as an actress, but as a character. And that made me realize, Marge doesn't really have friends.
No, she lives a miserable existence.
I was trying to think, if you didn't have Manjula, let's say you couldn't get Jan Hooks or whatever,
it would be Patty
or Selma. Yeah. And that changes the scene because Patty and Selma are going to be leave Homer. You don't need to change yourself, leave Homer. Which maybe would have been better,
that's
actually.
Ruth, but they don't use her enough at all.
Yeah. But actually, if it had been Patty and Selma and they were like, you should leave Homer, A, that's a whole different episode, but B, that's kind of a better message episode, because maybe then Marge would start thinking it's not me, it's him, and then that would be a whole
even though it's not even, because she's just misinterpreting something that she's seen.
Exactly.
I mean, I think also Ruth wouldn't have said that. Ruth wouldn't have said what Manjula said.
Well, Manjula wouldn't have said what Manjula said. I thought that was out of character. She grabs the flab on her belly, and she's like, "Look at this. First of all, there's no flab. Marge is skinny.
Marge is exceedingly skinny.
Manjula,
it's not even as if she had gained weight, or it was apropos of nothing.
Right.
And it was just a way to get her to get plastic surgery, and it didn't follow from anything.
Maybe it shouldn't have been a friend of Marge. It sucks that she doesn't have any. Maybe she should have just been. She got stuck in a conversation with somebody who she normally wouldn't, and that's would have been a younger somebody who is more image conscious and would say that even and have it clear that she's wrong.
Who's more image conscious than an Indian immigrant married with 8 children?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing they could have done is had. I hate to just be like, oh, let's rewrite the show after the fact. No, but but there's an element of well, why did anybody have to specifically tell her? Why couldn't somebody have why couldn't she have been the butt of a couple jokes or jeers that were actually not directed towards her at all?
Yeah.
Somebody says get out of the way, fatso, and they mean there's a fatso. I don't know, but it's she's misinterpreting all these other signals.
Right. She could even just be watching TV and see a commercial.
I mean, there's a really not.
Yeah, is your man
exactly that?
Looking at other women, they do the exact thing where they have a married guy who's flexing in front of some other women, and she's like, "Oh my god, I have to go do this."
I mean,
that's just like Homer.
There's a non-sexist way to do it completely, and just have her go in for a real surgery, and she's not going in for liposuction.
That's interesting because that's how I remembered this episode. I haven't seen this one since 2002. I didn't remember like all this image and body conscious stuff. I thought Marge went in for like a tonsillectomy or something.
That's what I thought based on the synopsis of the show that I had read, where it's like Marge goes in for a surgery and is accidentally given breast implants.
Right.
And I thought, oh, this sounds idiotic, but it sounds like something that would happen to Marge.
Right. Now,
you know,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No.
That would make sense to do it like that because you cut out this horrible Manjula scene and it would be far less offensive. But I do see how having these body image issues before the breast implants does strengthen the plot as a whole.
Right.
So, but
even then, she could still benefit from the same things and I'm doing air quotes when I say benefit. But you know, she could still have the benefits that she feels that she reaps initially.
Right, with
even without the body image stuff. She could be like, oh wow, these
it's like,
these
I don't need
great.
these, and then it's like, oh, actually I kind of like it.
It's not necessary.
Like it.
I think it does strengthen the plot to have it, but it is, if they had cut it completely, the plot still would have worked and you would have not had this like horrible I think that was maybe the more offensive than the breast implant stuff was the fact that Manjula convinced her to get liposuction
by just grabbing at her fat
and
her perceived fat. It wasn't even anything.
And I don't want to jump ahead too far, but there is a trope in the episode of like men catcalling her and like all these things
they
happening.
Sing an entire song to her.
It's very like the joke kind of seems like, wow, men, what a bunch of sexist idiots. And that's also kind of a lazy joke to make. It's like the dad who can't like do the laundry, like, oh, what an idiot.
The dad who left the milk out.
But
who left the milk out? That song's catchy, actually.
That could be in a Simpsons episode. Could be.
Could be in a Simpsons podcast several times.
Who left the milk?
Dad.
Who left the milk?
Dad.
Woo! It got. I could completely understand if they went and did the like accidental breast implants, and then she gets like catcalled. It was weird that they started out with these body image things, and then she gets reinforced. It's this weird reinforcement of like, oh no, now things are better. And it sort of just made everyone look crummy in the episode, like, and not as like a
bunch of
Marge, you're like a shitty person for not feeling good about yourself. That's not, you know, everybody seemed to be like acting not great. Like all the men were catcalling her.
Everyone went nuts for Marge, her big bazooms.
And like, you know, she feels like she doesn't look good, and then like Manjula's like, you look terrible, and then they go to get the, you know, and nobody cares. Nobody's like, oh, they're all like, oh, I'm sure your husband will hate it, and then everybody catcalls her, and it was just like a weird,
And like, I'm not anti.
It felt good.
I'm not anti breast implants. I'm not anti plastic surgery.
No.
I lean towards that, but I do understand that there's some people that if it makes you feel, better, it makes you feel better.
That's the reason you get it, to make yourself feel better.
But in terms
of, you think you need it,
of like forcing these body image expectations on women, and then likewise issues on women, like it's still even in a progressive, when we all live in New York, so we're, you know, even in a progressive modern state like that we live in,
city.
Well, I meant state of affairs, but
it's that TV
it's
show.
Still like, well, yeah, I'm sure that has great feminism and sexism issues, but no, it's just like, I mean, it's still really unfair that like you can be a gross, ugly guy. And there's still these no expectations for you to have to look great for a woman, and it's completely, you know, it's still a very prevalent problem that even though we've come a long way, it still has a long way to go. So it does suck to see a show that was at its in the 90s in our classic years, like very biting, very progressive, very satirical, and it's kind of sucks that it would fall into this trap of, you know, because I'm sure it's not like, let's get the women, let's take them down a notch. It's just more of like, it's reinforcing a stereotype that's very easy to reinforce. We've all done it. Maybe not Brice, but
I was 15 once.
no, we've all done it.
I am right now.
We're all 15.
But it was just.
I sounded when I was 15. Puberty hit me at 21.
The show has a responsibility to do a little bit better than that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And that's why I think the Manjula stuff was terrible. Like, it was like you are ugly. You need to look better for your disgusting, awful husband.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it felt the whole thing. I guess to boil it down, the whole thing felt kind of mean-spirited. And when she gets breast implants, all of that like mean-spirited like worries that she had were validated.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's
and
exactly
so the
it.
whole thing was just like, oh yeah, no, this is and so there's
it's like, oh, you should have gotten
we're
breast
not
implants.
it's again I'd be jumping ahead, but the moral of the story doesn't really end up being there's no really moral to the story. They don't really have a moral.
Yeah, I mean,
It's sort of like, oh, I'm tired of being gawked at.
Yeah.
yeah,
and that was about
my
it.
Back hurts.
Her back hurts. It made that if anything, her back hurting makes more sense
yeah.
as an excuse than
any sort of,
because the men were like, why should she have to change her body so that men would stop cacking? That's awful. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Wow, Mom, your gun's got us a great table. Right by the lobster tank.
For you, pretty lady, I make the fresh pasta. Instead of the crap from a can, I give it to everybody else.
It's as cold as my love for you.
And Marge, if your mouth get tired, Angelo here will chew for you. Yes, I like it to chew.
Thank you, fellas.
Oh, okay. So now she has the breasts. I liked the way they portrayed how is her life changed with breasts. I like that she was like couldn't walk with them. I mean, this was a little much. It was a little cartoonish, but the fact that she was like off balance.
A little cartoonish on this cartoon.
Yeah.
No, I know what you mean.
So like I like that. I like that she couldn't open the cupboard doors.
Right.
I like that she couldn't find a way to hold Maggie, and that to Maggie she looked like this different grotesque thing.
Right.
I liked all of that for what it's worth.
Yeah. It was weird that she was going to keep them a secret for 2 days. And then the way Homer finds out is he feels her up in the dark.
Yeah.
I thought that was off-putting.
Oh, and it went on.
And then,
it was
that's the pivot. That's where she starts realizing she likes them because he feels them up and it arouses him.
He gets a boner.
And then he
They go to the bone zone.
Yeah, and she has sex.
Because instead of reassuring her and then rolling over and falling asleep immediately,
Right.
Homer then decides to have sex with her because she has large breasts
So
now. And I was
completely
like,
validates.
so it validated. Like, it was just
Yeah.
very
Yeah,
like
it was.
there was no
What is
there was
this
no
episode trying to say?
there was no like comedy about it. It was
No.
it was it didn't feel humorous like in the way that I expect from, like
Yeah.
a sitcom. There wasn't it was sort of anybody who was telling a joke about someone who got breast implants, this is how I feel they would write this episode.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like somebody who is a longtime comedy writer.
Yeah, I mean, if you're thinking about it, like, it's an episode where Marge gets breast implants. If you have to do that premise for whatever reason,
Which you don't.
You
you
lost
can-
a bet.
you can.
There's a gun to your head.
There's a way to mine comedy out of Homer seeing them for the first time that isn't a pitch black scene where he feels her up in the dark
Yes.
and then has sex
Yes.
with her.
There's a
That's
funnier-
probably the worst way to do it.
Yes, there's a funnier way to do it, and
Yeah.
they didn't do it, and it felt bland and just bizarre and
Yeah.
like slightly. It kind of went on for a while, and I was like,
Yeah, it was not the best.
Yeah, it was icky.
And then Lisa comes in and Bart comes in and they see them.
Ugh, yeah.
And Lisa says, "They're as big as your endowment is bigger than Harvard's,"
Which was okay,
which was kind of funny. But then they made
Homer-
well, what did Homer
Well,
say?
then Homer goes,
Offhanded.
"Oh, you win the offhanded remark
Oh,
of the
right,
night."
right.
Now, that
And
was
then she's
lame
like,
because
well, I
it's
was
pointing it
working
out.
on it in the hallway.
But I did kind of like that she
Oh, you
said
thought they brought it back?
That she said, well, just the idea that somebody, maybe not Lisa. Well, I guess Lisa. I like the idea that somebody would see them and then wait to come up with a good line.
Yeah.
But the scene as a whole was that joke as a whole didn't really work. It was too
Yeah,
that
I
problem of
agree.
them going too much with it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So they go to the restaurant. Are they celebrating her boobs? Is that why they went to the restaurant?
I think they're just.
Or are they just
who
going?
knows? They're just
to
going
eat?
out.
I guess they're
It's
just
fine,
going
they
out
can
to
just
eat,
go
yeah.
out.
So they go to the Italian restaurant, and again, this is more sets of examples of why Marge's life has improved. Now they can get a table, even though the
Right.
restaurant's full.
A previous couple was turned away, and
Right.
then Marge comes in with
Flanders and his kids
Yeah.
were
Was it
turned
Flanders?
away.
Yeah.
So then Marge comes in,
And,
with
yeah.
her breasts, and Luigi's like, "Oh, I'll get you a table right away."
Yeah.
And then
the
there was
nice
a
food.
And the nice food, not the crap that he serves everyone else.
Out of the can, and then cuts the Skinner and Agnes.
And she says it's as cold as my love for you. That was dark.
Yeah, it's harsh.
But there was that weird moment. He says he'll have the nice food, and also if you want Angelo to chew for you, he will. And it's this guy with a huge mouth who's like, I like it to chew. And that's the whole thing.
I liked that part. I don't know why. I thought it was weird.
Really weird.
And it was it was just kind of creepy. And I was like, all right, this is kind of funny.
I'm in between. Yeah. I don't know how I feel about it.
Is
that
sure.
a reference to something?
I don't think so. I think it was just something creepy and weird.
It was just the way he was like, I like it to chew.
Yeah,
that was weird.
It was a weird. I don't see what the reasoning behind it was, but I didn't hate it.
I think it was just something that and as an added bonus, creepy joke.
Like
it was like we will do this extra service for you at this restaurant, and it was somebody who was going to chew her food.
It reminds me of the SNL sketch with Kirstie Alley, where they're at the Italian restaurant and like Adam Sandler and Rob Schneider are the waiters, and they're like for Bellissima, and they start filling her up and
right,
the fresh pepper for Bellissima.
Yeah. Well then.
So let's get to that. To the next part.
And it goes into a song.
So and none of even though we've seen it before, this came out of the blue.
I didn't remember this at all.
It was like Homer's like, oh, Homer's talking, had a weird musical inflection.
Yeah,
oh
and
no,
here comes the music.
Boy, yeah.
So first of all, we usually hate musical numbers. We hated this one. Here's a question. I was like, this sounded very similar, but I don't think it was the exact same thing. But is it me, or do a lot of their musicals pretty much have the same music to them? Like this one almost like I'd have to listen to them side by side, and I'm pretty sure I'm wrong, and I'm sure I'll find out on our website.
Yeah.
jacksucks.com, whatever the fuck we said. Worst Jack ever. But it sounded just like the burlesque song.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It's very similar. They're both about sexual innuendo.
Yeah. Is it? I feel like most of. I mean, you have songs that stand out, like We Do, like musically wise, not just the fact that it's good. But I feel like a lot of them do sound like this weird Broadway style.
Yeah, Broadway style is the perfect way to describe it. Yeah,
it was like I don't even know when they're parodying specific songs. Like this, I'm not a big Broadway guy. Like, was it parodying something specific?
This I don't think so. It was a song about how things can be made better. And that Marge specifically was made better with her fake breasts.
Oh, that's terrible.
It was just
and it was all the men in the restaurant singing it, and it was like beloved characters,
including Mr. Burns. Where when it got to Mr. Burns' part, all I could think was, why the hell is Mr. Burns in this restaurant
eating cold cans of spaghetti?
Right. Like it was there solely so that they could have Mr. Burns sing a line.
But why have Mr. Burns?
Which wasn't
Mr. Burns doesn't sing.
So AV Club did a Simpsons week a couple weeks ago, and they had one of their features was they interviewed, I forget which one, I feel bad now, but it was one of the writers who's writing currently for the show, and he was describing the writer's room, and he said they have a poster of like all the Simpsons characters, and it's not all of them, but it's like you've seen T-shirts and stuff like that. You've seen stuff like this where they have all of them in like one big crowd scene. And he says one of the reasons they have it is for whenever they have a group scene, they just like look at the wall and just to get an idea of who to just populate the scenes with. Which like several episodes on this show, we said like, how do they choose which characters to put in these random scenes? So I actually I have an answer for you guys. They probably had this wall and they're like, who could we put in this musical?
Yeah.
Now Mr. Burns, I don't know why, because you're right, he wouldn't be in that restaurant.
It was a very like smattering of Springfield. Like Moe was also at the restaurant.
Yeah, comic book guy, Dr. Hibbert.
Comic book guy, and Dr. Hibbert, and it was a very like Moe, comic book guy, Dr. Hibbert, Mr. Burns, like very different classes of people. Like,
well, as we know, Mr. Burns loves pranking comic book guys.
Yes,
what he does outside.
They have that itchy and scratchy like relationship of getting back at one another.
Yeah,
I would watch that. Burns and comic book guy.
Sounds like a cop show, but not a good one.
Brice can edit it.
Yeah,
we'll get Tom Selleck to play comic book guy.
If there was one Simpsons character Tom Selleck could play,
it's not Flanders or anything.
It's big comic book guy.
Episode ever.
Nice.
Well done.
It's my
that's your TS.
My TS.
Your TS. So it was a horrible musical. It was horrible because it was a musical. The message was horrible.
Not a good song. The message was terrible. It was just like, you're like X-Men number 3 in a Mylar bag. And
it was.
First of all, you wouldn't keep X-Men 3 in a Mylar bag.
No,
you would need
it would be GCC graded.
Exactly.
Like,
you'd slab that. You want a high grade. But anyway.
I thought that the song itself musically was bland. Lyrically, beyond the fact that it was like just a bunch of men singing about how Marge is better now that she has larger breasts, it was lyrically very bland.
Yeah.
The characters didn't particularly do anything funny.
Yeah.
I just said how they come up with characters in the writer's room. I want to know in the writer's room, at what point did they, or maybe it was the one guy who wrote the first draft, but I feel like this was a committee idea. Why put a musical there? Why now? Why was it necessary to keep? Was it just a quick way to get the idea that all men like boobs?
Yes.
This was already a pretty short episode. It was only like 20 minutes long, but this pads it out a little bit more to throw in a musical number.
Nice little pun there. Pads it out.
Oh,
That's
wait.
intentional.
I think had they not done this musical number, they would have had to have.
There would have been multiple scenes of people being like, Marge has boobs.
Yeah, 2, perhaps 3 instances of stuff happening.
Exactly.
And then they would have had to actually have her react in some way.
So is it good?
And then people would have realized, like, none of this makes any sense.
Is it good that they were economical and did it?
No, because it was
nothing
terrible.
about it was good. Okay. You know what's especially a problem, I think, is that all of those characters are saying, you're better with breast implants.
Yeah.
And none of them... Ultimately, the episode, it sort of falls on Marge doesn't need the breast implants to be happy.
Right.
But none of those characters get that lesson as well. Like, it's just... Yeah. This isn't a lesson Marge needs to learn. This is a lesson that, like, the men of Springfield need to learn.
Which I don't know how you make it entertaining in 20 minutes to have a generation of men finally realize that women are equal.
Well, I'm not even sure it needed to be that if they didn't make every single man in Springfield do a song about how much better Marge is with larger breasts. Had she been... Had she gotten like...
Had it been like Mo and a few other slime balls?
And had she gotten like preferential treatment one time, and then at the end of the song, a woman comes in, approaches her about doing trade show modeling and perhaps beyond. And like, had that happened, it would have followed that, like, she would have been like, oh, this is interesting. Like, maybe I'll follow this.
New opportunities.
And, it's like it's something different to do. And it would have felt less like bizarre and stupid.
Yeah.
This was just like, oh, instead of just being like, here's a couple things that she didn't consider about getting breast implants, that like how they might benefit her in some way, or open new opportunities to do different things up. That they just had like a bunch of guys be like, yeah, and she was like, hooray.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, I'm getting attention.
It was pretty terrible. And this doesn't fix anything. It doesn't help. It would, if I could rewrite the episode, I wouldn't have a musical. I mean, I wouldn't do the episode, but I wouldn't have the musical at all. But I think it would have been at least a little bit tighter and funnier if it was a musical of just the sleazeballs. If it was just like Mo and Comic Book Guy and Rusty and Eugene.
Eugene and Rusty.
Yeah, if that could have been funny to have like an all slime ball musical number. It wouldn't be funny. It would be better than that. But
there's something to that. Yeah, you could have done something with that. Briefly though, I just want to point out the Bart thing. Did that work for you guys? Where Bart's like, I didn't get a song. He starts singing a song, and everyone's just like, eh.
I liked it. Again, I don't like hearing the musicals. It's like nails on a chalkboard. I physically don't like it, but so I didn't like when Bart started singing. I physically didn't like it, but I did like the idea of it.
Yeah, it did nothing.
It did nothing for me. It didn't. I was like, okay, hey, remember that Bart has a B story?
It's kind of the same joke as when Marge tried to sing after the burlesque one, and they didn't let her.
Oh, you're totally right.
It's not quite the same, but
yeah, it's pretty close.
So she gets approached by the agent or head of a modeling agency. I don't remember exactly
to be like
what
a
she
trade
is.
show model.
Right.
So
and
she decides to do
love that the first trade show is of MitCon.
Yes.
That's a very Marge
that was
thing.
good.
Which is funny
That was
because the
great.
climax takes place at the Shoe Expo, and they just call it Shoe Expo. Why not?
Oh,
One of the best things Simpsons has always been good at, even in the new ones, is coming up with funny convention names.
And I feel like the joke was that it was just called the Shoe Expo, and I was like, but that's not as funny as it would be funnier if there were a funny title to
like
it.
Of Mid. If you told me to come up with a funny name for Oven Mitt, I don't know if I could come up with Of MidCon.
MidCon.
Like, that's great, and you know, I wish they would have tried a little harder with the shoe one.
Yeah.
But I mean, nothing beats by
Mon Sci-Fi Con?
by Mon Sci-Fi Con, but Of MidCon's up there.
Be there.
So
and
then,
be square.
That's my face next to the paper steak, and don't you forget it.
Let's watch a better episode now.
let's see the.
I like that Of MidCon. I like where she comes out and she takes out like a hot cake or a casserole.
Yes.
And she goes, "This sure beats slaving over a hot stove."
Yeah, that was great.
I'm just gonna take you for a spin. Hoo, ha, he. Show our guest to the twirly Yates.
Holy G-Force, Batman! The blood's rushing to my head!
That's right, my panicky chum. In a few moments, you and I will literally blush ourselves to death.
Oh my, this is taking a long time.
So I think we're coming up on the climax of the episode, so which ties the A plot and the B plot together. So I feel like we should backtrack to the B plot.
Right, let's backtrack.
Let's do that.
Back it up.
So there's a B plot going on with Bart and Milhouse. They are having, I guess, a sleepover, and they catch an episode of Batman 66, the old show with Adam West and Burt Ward, who both appear as themselves.
Which that was cool.
I like that.
It was weird
Batman
that
fan.
Bart was excited when he caught it on TV. I mean, God knows Simpsons isn't great with continuity.
Well, they did meet Batman.
But they met Batman. They met Adam West Batman, and he's who the hell is Robin?
Right.
And the joke being that kids don't know Adam West Batman.
I would assume between that episode and this one, Bart got really into Batman.
Okay, it's been 20 years. I'm sure there's been Netflix in between. I guess.
Right.
Fine.
I wish that was on Netflix.
There was probably another Chalmers episode where Chalmers was like talking about Batman.
That's right. You gotta learn about Batman, son.
He's a real man, a man's man.
Just like Teddy Roosevelt.
A man's man.
And they're watching the episode, and it features Krusty as Clownface. He's the villain in like a Batman 66 style. One thing that I loved was he had henchmen named Hoo Ha and He.
Yeah.
That was so good.
This was a very solid, detailed parody of 60s Batman.
Yes.
Like all the little details, like they got everything right.
I groaned when they first showed it because it was like, here we go. And they did it so well that I was like completely redeemed in the first like 40 seconds of that.
It was very
thing.
faithful to the actual
show. So good.
The fact that it was so faithful, which I guess makes it funny just because the show itself was funny, so that you can faithfully recreate it and still have it be satirical.
Yeah.
So that was great. I still think it went really long. Like I think it went way longer than your typical satire.
Because they
like
had Adam West and Burt Ward. I mean, you want to use them.
I know. So it went really long, but it was kind of acceptable because it was so good, and you have
Plus,
Adam
they need to pad out the episode.
Yeah, but if you think about good like Night Boat, if you think about parodies, they're usually like 20 seconds.
Crime-solving boat.
Yeah.
They actually did. They actually did a Batman 66 type thing before. Remember when they had the campy Radioactive Man TV series, and it was the same kind of thing with the Dutch angles. Yeah. Anyway, just pointing that out.
And it was with keeping with the Batman TV show where they would have famous people guest starring as the villains. That was the thing that they did. So it totally worked. Like that's what they would have had.
Great.
Krusty is perhaps in that world like about that sort of level of famous where people would know him, but he'd still do like this campy TV show.
He's Burgess Meredith.
Yeah, and real quick, I want to talk about something a little bit a larger point of the show with this parody is in parodies in general when the show do them, especially like in the classic years. Usually when they did them, we love them. Because the classic years did everything right, so we love it. And then when we see parodies now, we usually groan. And it's hard to tell now because when they do something new, like we talk about how weird it is they have a Mac. But if they parody a new show, like they haven't done this, but imagine they were to parody It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Yeah. Like it would feel weird because the classic era always did something that was already a little old, already like a generation behind. Mm-hmm. Like they could have done this parody in the classic years, and they have, we just said.
Right.
So, but I do think they can get away with doing parodies of new shows if it's not that they were just parodying random. It's not like Family Guy where they pick a 70s show nobody's heard of and do a joke about it. Yep. They pick iconic stuff that they knew about. So I think if you were to do a new show today, if it was already kind of iconic, you can get away with it. And the example I have is from our second episode, our Modern Family.
Oh yeah.
The Modern Family parody where they do with the theme song isn't bad. And I think that's because that's a show that does kind of 20 years from now we'll still get it.
Right.
So I think I read a lot. I've been seeing a lot of people talk about why the new episodes suck. That's what our podcast is about. And I think people are they're misplacing their anger when they say that they shouldn't be talking about new stuff the way. I think it's not that it's new. It's just not as iconic as what we're used to. Usually, you're not going to parody something unless it's iconic. But if you do something new, like make a Kardashian joke.
Right, they're doing like pop culture, ephemeral pop culture references that in a few years aren't going to age well.
So I think the new show can get away with doing pop culture if it's not ephemeral, if it's not Kardashian, if it is Modern Family.
Well, and to be fair, it was integral to the storyline. that, not necessarily that it was a parody, but they tied it into the storyline.
Right.
They needed to see what happened in order to push the plot forward, and Krusty had to be involved. So it was like a clever way to sort of work it in without just having him see Krusty the Clown do it on TV.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because it is something I see come up a lot in these discussions. So they decide to recreate the scene from Batman.
Well, we didn't actually describe what the scene was. It was Krusty as Clownface or whatever his name was had Batman and Robin tied up on a carousel, and it was making it go faster and faster so that they would blush to death.
Yeah,
all the blood would rush to their head. Very Batman.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Well, the way that Adam West describes it, literally blush to death.
And then he gets out of it by using the bat carousel.
Yeah, I wrote a bat carousel reversal spray, which again is a very Batman 66 thing.
Which is not even really a parody.
No,
it's just a straight lift he would anti-shark repellent.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why. I don't know if they can do a better parody because you're parodying something
that is essentially
basically a parody.
Exactly. Yeah. So
they recreated on the school. They tied Millhouse to the merry-go-round. What is that ride called? I debate this.
I think it's called a roundabout.
Is that it?
I thought it was.
Roundabout, merry-go-round, carousel.
They spin it out on this thing, and his change purse goes flying out.
Which is great. That's a great Millhouse thing.
Of course, Millhouse would have a change purse.
But then eventually it spins off and it crashes into some old World War II vets from Iwo Jima.
Yeah. What'd you think of that?
I like that it felt like a classic era. This is something Chalmers and Skinner would be doing. That it felt right at home there.
Yes.
Them doing. Are you asking me what I thought of the actual Iwo Jima recreation?
I guess my expectation was it cuts to Millhouse is flying away on this roundabout carousel, whatever the hell it is, and then it cuts to Chalmers and Skinner are leading Iwo Jima veterans around the school for whatever reason, and then you see Millhouse is coming, and I anticipated that it wouldn't hit the flag because they were admiring the flag.
Right.
I thought like something else would happen, unexpected, but he does hit the flag, and then the joke is actually all the Iwo Jima people are like, we know what to do, and they do the flag raising of Iwo Jima. That's famous.
And then he comes back around and knocks them all over.
Right.
I liked it. I thought it was funny.
I was surprised because I don't know whether this one came out before or after Star Spangled Bart Mangled Banner.
It was before.
Okay, this was the exact same thing as that, and except Bart accidentally moons the flag, and it gets them pretty much indirectly sent to Guantanamo or wherever, or Alcatraz. Whereas this one, Millhouse pukes on the flag. Although I guess it gets redirected to Krusty, and Krusty. So
why does it get redirected to Krusty? That didn't really make sense.
Yeah, that's right. Because it's Batman.
It's Bart's excuse that he saw something
Bart
that
says
Krusty did,
but it wasn't on the Krusty show.
But Krusty still did it.
But
that's right. They should have gotten Adam West for the whole show.
But even pulling it back a little bit more, so Millhouse pukes on the flag and in front of veterans, and that's a bad thing to do. But
yes, it is.
It is. I know from personal experience.
Look, we're just three white guys, but we're just saying we're not
puking on flags, talking about fake boobs. But no, 2 points I want to make on that. One, is that such a thing that would cause an outrage that's typically reserved for, like, in the season 2 or 3 episode where Maggie hits Homer with a mallet and they blame Itchy and Scratchy? Is puking on a flag equivalent to that? I'm not sure it is.
I mean, it's more than just the puking on the flag. I mean, he does, the merry-go-round does go wild, knocking them over, knocking down the flag.
I guess.
Like,
I mean,
it's more that, like, I think Skinner is like angry at Bart. Bart goes, it was this.
Yeah.
And then people are like, oh, he's causing trouble, and it's because of. It's
because it becomes a plot point that now Krusty's ostracized and he has to tone down the violence on his show, even though it wasn't even on his show, it was on Batman.
Yeah.
Which would have taken place in the 60s.
Yeah, exactly. It just felt to me like there was a step missing.
Yeah, I agree.
And if the episode's running short anyway, why not write that step?
I agree. I mean, the flag thing I can get just in terms of the show's own logic, because Bart clearly didn't moon the thing. It was clearly accidental, and he still...
Well, that was my other point, is that it was Millhouse who did it, but Skinner turns to Bart. I understand he was like, Millhouse is more of a second banana.
Yeah.
It must be a mastermind.
It was a real stretch.
It was a stretch. Yeah. I guess that's my point.
It went from Millhouse to Bart to Batman
Krusty.
to Krusty. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then everyone's protesting against Krusty. he doesn't seem to care, but then they rock him out of his trailer.
Right. I did like that the picket group was puke.
Yeah.
Parents united against Krusty's evil.
Yeah. Somebody else had a sign that had like the first two things that they had been protesting crossed off, and like the third one is like
Butthead
and
Jackass.
That's good.
Get Beavis and Butthead.
I like that. I like that.
It was very Bender should not be on television.
Right. Hey, this isn't the Futurama cast, buddy.
Yeah. Join Dan and I on,
So
on our Futurama cast.
So Krusty gets neutered. The Krusty Show gets neutered. Mr. Teeny gets.
I was just gonna say that. I really like that.
Yeah, so
That was
Mr.
a
Teeny's
good-
sent
that was a
back to the
good
wild,
joke.
and he's so nervous he has to take out a cigarette. That's,
And the like alpha male monkey just slaps
yeah,
it out
that
of
was
his
really
hand.
well done.
That
It
was funny.
Foreshadowing Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Great movie.
That's right.
I like the very specific. Again, the specific. Go specific. The specific Friars Club jokes were great, like the chopped liver being pumped in,
Yep.
Right.
and the fact that the doorman was old and
Krusty's-
died and was Krusty's agent.
Yeah.
It was very, from what I know of Friars Clubs and Rotary Clubs, it was very.
Right.
Yeah, it worked. It was
Very true
funny.
to life.
It was
Yeah.
funny. And then Krusty says he got to where he got because he named names in the 50s.
Oh, right.
That's
That's
great
classic
Krusty.
Which
Krusty.
is perfect. Yeah,
Which
perfect,
makes Krusty how
perfect
old
Krusty.
now?
Like 90.
He was old enough to name names and be on
Yeah.
and be sort of an old hand already when he was on Batman. So
Yeah, that's right.
He's about 112.
Yeah.
It's best not to think
Krusty
about
gets
it.
around.
Best not to think about it.
But that's why it's funny.
So that brings us to ShoeCon, I think, right?
Yes.
And
Shoe
these
Expo,
plots.
Shoe Expo.
Oh, was it Shoe? Oh, it was
Wait,
Shoe
was
Expo.
it Shoe Expo?
I wrote ShoeCon, but you're right. That's
Shoe-
wrong.
yeah.
I am right. That's
Weird
wrong.
thing. There was a weird thing where Mo is like, "This is my Woodstock." What was that
Yeah,
about?
I thought it was going to be another shoe fetish joke.
That's
but
what I
was
thought
just
it
Mo
was.
like shoes.
Well, I think this is like the exciting thing for Mo. I was like,
guess.
okay.
But
He does like clogs.
it's such a weird. That was.
It's
that
just
didn't
like
work for
it's
me
like
because,
Mo is a loser and
it-
he's really excited for Shoe
There
Expo,
was,
but
there was
clearly,
too much I had to fill
but
in on my
Mo-
own.
but the
Yeah.
thing is, clearly, a lot of people were very excited
Yeah,
for
it
the
was a
Shoe
line
Expo.
out the door for
Yeah,
some
and
reason.
all the Springfield regulars were there. Also,
I guess the joke was just it's a boring thing.
but
Yes.
Mo is a weird person to pick because Mo is not known for being boring. He's known for being a sleaze and a
Right.
rapist.
A
Not
rape, a rape
rape
encouragist.
enthusiast.
A rape enthusiast.
Yeah, animal rape enthusiast.
Ugh.
God,
I added it.
Couple good puns. The shoes for Jesus.
Shoes for Jesus was funny. Yeah, and then Marge gets drugged. Remember that? The agent.
Yeah, she puts
just-
Botox
just-
in her face.
Yeah, just jabs a needle.
And
in
I
her.
was like, all right, that
was weird. Didn't like that at all.
I really
wasn't funny.
I really just it's so unclear what the writers are trying to say, pro or anti plastic surgery. It's so-
or
Right.
what
Or-
the jokes are. Like, boy, you sure can use botulism toxin to create Botox and
Yeah.
make you smile.
Sure
I just
can.
was kind of like, it's not funny.
Yeah.
It's just a throwaway, like.
And it was also like Marge is having second thoughts about doing this. Let's just drug her and drag her out with a
that-
forced smile.
Yeah.
That's good. I bet Mo liked that one.
It was a little creepier than it needed. It was a little weirder than it needed to be. It just wasn't funny enough to.
This whole episode, there was just something off.
It felt like nothing was funny enough to make the creepy or offensive things work.
Bart has a plan. They're also at the Shoe Expo. Old fan favorite Stampy is there.
I loved seeing Stampy again from Bart Gets an
Yep.
Elephant.
I love
season
seeing
5.
him again. I was kind of, I don't know. He was used fine. I feel like because he's in one of the all-time greatest episodes, it sucks that he's in this awful episode. That's all.
True. That's very true. But at least he was doing things. It was.
Some elephants are just jerks. So, you know.
That's true. But it was.
And
in,
he was
like,
being a jerk.
Mr. Simpson.
It was in continuity because he was putting he put Milhouse in his mouth and Homer in his mouth just
Yeah,
like he did
right.
in that
Yeah.
episode too.
And I also loved when Homer goes, "I'll save the day," and it just cuts like a second later. And
Yeah,
Homer's
he's
already in his
in their mouth,
So
yeah.
they have this plan where Bart and Milhouse they have Milhouse be attacked by Stampy, fake attacked, so that Krusty can come in and save the day by using Stampy's safe word, which was
Magumbo.
Magumbo.
So Krusty forgets the word.
Right.
So now now Milhouse is legitimately
Milhouse,
in
Bart,
danger,
and Homer are
Bart and
all
Homer.
in Stampy's mouth.
And the cops are going to shoot.
They're gonna shoot
Stampy and the kids.
Probably.
Because
Okay.
Marge takes
Because
off
we
her,
don't-
Here's where everything just falls apart.
Yeah, Marge takes off her top to stop the cops from shooting. Is she trying to save Stampy?
This whole ending doesn't make any sense to me. The cops are gonna shoot Stampy. That would probably kill all three of them, which I understand was what
Yeah.
Marge is saying, but shouldn't the cops come up with a better thing?
You know what? No, I don't care because the cops, like, Wiggum is a dope.
Wiggum's
like,
a dope, you're
they're,
right.
They're going to do that. That's fine. the problem is that she goes, well, I have to distract the cops, so she gets up on top of a display and takes off. She just check out these. I don't remember the word she uses.
All points bulletin.
All points bulletin. Check out this all points bulletin.
Fine.
And
because nipples are points.
And then everybody's like, oh, and Krusty goes, check out those Magumbos.
Right, and that's Stampy's word, so Stampy puts everyone down.
Everybody's happy.
Basically, Marge takes out her breasts so that happenstance could save the day.
Yes.
Where, like, Krusty just happens to remember the word. Because let's say Krusty didn't remember the word. What happens?
The elephant would still be eating the kids.
Yeah, they'd be like, oh my god, a pair of tits. All right, let's shoot the elephant.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, like
so it really makes it's complete
Marge did nothing.
Yeah, it was.
Well, and in the end, having large breasts paid off.
Yeah, and this
Marge could have done that with regular sized breasts.
Like, probably true.
It would still work.
Everybody wants to see Marge's boobs. Obviously,
apparently they were in Playboy.
Yeah.
She should have just held up the copy of Playboy. Check this. Check out this all points bulletin.
Oh, boy.
And also, we skipped right before the whole Stampy thing. She was getting her worst objectification. All the men were really hooting and hollering at her boobies.
Yeah.
And
they made a joke where
she says like
Lisa,
89% of something is whatever, and this guy's like, I'd like to 89 you. I was just like,
wow, we don't want that kind of humor.
Well, and then Lisa says another guy's catcalling her, and Lisa says, "Stop objectifying my mom." And he says, "In a minute," and he's like, "Hey, lady, you're an object." And I was like,
so on the nose.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's.
But the
sure
reason I bring that up
her.
is because that one scene is why she gets her breast implants removed, because she's like, I don't want to be treated like an object anymore. It has nothing to do with the elephant. Like her taking her top off is strictly the B plot.
And if anything, I don't think that she needed to have breast implants for everyone to look at her. She could have just done that with her regular breasts. Right. But if anything, the lesson she would take away from that is, hey, breast implants can do good. Like, that moment, that's like the last moment before she gets them taken out. Because then the next scene is
her getting them removed. So it doesn't really make sense.
It doesn't really track.
Yeah, it just wasn't.
It really the ending. It was nothing.
It was just like they threw up
and then they were like, okay, we're done.
Like, it was
48 hours was up. Yeah. Like, time to get them out again.
This was like Spider-Man in pieces on the... This is the Clone Saga of Simpsons episodes.
The Ben Reilly.
This is Ben Reilly's there. You got Prodigy was one of Spider-Man's other alter egos, and Kane. All right, we're getting super nerdy now.
It was
Ezekiel. Ezekiel showed up, and
the Gwen Stacy, Norman Osborn twins.
Boy.
Dr. Octopus.
Worst Spider-Man ever, that's for sure.
The Jackal was really doing a whole bunch of genetic manipulation.
Anyway. Aunt May is a character.
The newspaper afterwards. So
I did love the newspaper
was good. It was very funny.
It said well, the Krusty saves elephant, saves boys.
And then it pulls back and sees that the big headline is local woman bears breasts, photos, page 3 through 28.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which was good, and that was the kind of like funny sexism joke that I thought worked.
Yeah.
Like that's like a decent comment that's also legitimately funny. Right. It's funny that somebody would do that, and it's funny because it's because it's terrible.
It's making fun of media. It's also saying that everybody took pictures when
and they printed all of them, and it's funny. It was a funny joke, and it was that was the thing. That was the problem with this episode, is that there were no jokes that were funny enough to warrant like doing this. Just in the same way that like you can talk about like racial humor, and there are comedians who are funny enough to, for at least for a lot of people, to like make the joke work, and make people comfortable enough with it. And this failed to ever do that.
There is a show that could make this work. It's called The Simpsons. It aired from 1989 to 1999. But oh well.
I just love that, it's got that great photo joke, and then that's totally undercut because how the episode actually ends is with another Baha Men parody.
Yes.
Marge let her jugs out.
Yeah. And
oof.
Yeah. Oof is right.
Woof, woof.
Yeah, woof.
Yeah, and again, I think they've done at least one or two other episodes with different other Who Let the Dogs Out parodies. It's really weird.
I mean, nothing ages better than Who Let the Dogs Out parody.
than a current pop song that is clearly a flash in the pan novelty
thing.
So overall, just not. The ending was
not a great episode.
Throwaway. They were like, all right, so I guess we're done. And Homer's like, I'm still attracted to you. And I was like, oh, okay, everything's fine. I will say, I think the B story here was, I don't know. When watching it, I cringed when the B story started, but I really got on board with the B story. I feel it's like the dark horse of the episode. Like, had the A story been
the B story,
been the B story, and then Marge not have gotten breast implants, I completely could have gone with there were enough funny jokes in it, and it was mostly true to character for the characters.
The B plot, that is.
The B plot, yes. Okay. And so I thought I was legitimately entertained. I thought they did a good job with that. I thought however that story came about, that was a good story.
Yeah, I did like that. I mean, the Batman stuff I thought was great.
Yeah.
89% of Americans would rather have a shoehorn than a computer.
Yeah, I'd like to 89 you.
I've heard about you vendors.
Hey, lady, I like the way your body looks.
Stop objectifying my mom.
I will in a second. Whoa, hey, baby, you're an object.
Let's wrap this up, guys. Any final thoughts on this episode as a whole?
I think broader, like in broad terms, in terms of the way the show is now versus when the show was, better, quote unquote. I think one of the things I noticed is that this episode had absolutely no like heart or sweet moments, and it was at the end of the episode, the A story was about Marge and Homer's relationship, and that's what caused her to feel uncomfortable, and that's what caused her to end up keeping she wanted Homer to be attracted to her. And there never really was anything sweet or nice, and that's sort of a classic Simpsons thing would have been to have something zany, but in the end come back to like a loving family moment,
right?
Yep.
Or at least have some heartfelt moment somewhere in the show where he's like, "No, Marge, like you are a beautiful woman. I love you for you because you love me for me." Right. There would have been a nice real moment.
There was nothing like that. They actually didn't even come back to that thread at all.
I think they ended with Homer doing some throwaway line.
Homer was just like, "I love you the way you are."
Yeah,
and I'll totally have sex with you later.
Yeah, it was exactly. It was just like.
You're right.
Nothing.
It was completely even when The Simpsons is not funny and bad and kind of cringeworthy, it's usually still got some heart in it. And this, you're right, it's completely cold.
Yeah, I agree. This was not a good one.
So what do you guys think about? So overall, I don't know if we have a clear answer. Was this show pro plastics, like pro breast implants, anti breast implants? Is it saying that women should be comfortable and Marge specifically should be comfortable the way she is, or is it saying that? I must not be. I can't say it's saying that women should get breast implants, but I don't think it give a good argument.
I don't think it came down on that issue at all.
I don't think it said much at all. They were kind of like, "Oh, here's a bunch of guys."
It's just more about doing boob jokes. Is that it?
It was kind of like that chiropractor B plot from I don't remember what episode it was, but it's one that we'd already done.
Right.
Where it was like, are they making fun of chiropractors? Are they saying chiropractors are good? Like it was kind of the same thing. Like I don't know what you actually think.
Yeah, it didn't really take a stance.
And it wasn't funny enough not to take a stance.
Right.
That was the thing.
Right. And I guess it's just us being so offended by it that we're pretending there was an issue. But I have a feeling they never even considered the issue. I think they just wanted to make tit jokes.
Well, let me just recap where we are with the list. So our worst episode ever right now is still Bonfire of the Manatees, which we did 2 weeks ago. And our least worst episode is Pokemon. Been holding in there for a while, almost 10 weeks now.
Yeah. I think it's going to be 11.
I think you might be right on that one. I'm thinking the bottom half of the list at this point.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
No question.
So again, we're at 14 now.
You can see it. By the way, you can see our full episode rankings at weepodcast.com.
Yeah.
weepodcast.com.
There's comments under it. Not even Dan's commented. It's not like our popular Stitcher page. But
right.
But yeah, if you guys disagree with us, by all means, comment on that page and we'll hash it out.
And if you think we're the real racists, tell us.
No. So we have 14 on the list so far, not counting our honorable mention. Number 7 is Homer versus Dignity, right there in the middle. So we're saying right now that this is between that and our worst episode, which is Bonfire of the Manatees.
Yeah.
So would you say this is in the worst quarter? Or
let's look at Saddlesore Galactica, because we don't like that episode.
All right, so our bottom 3, our worst episodes are
Bonfire of the Manatees.
Bonfire, then less worse than that is Lisa Goes Gaga, and then less worse than that is Saddlesore.
All 3 not good episodes.
So before that is How I Met Your Mother. I'm going to say this is worse than How I Met Your Mother for sure.
Yes.
So Saddlesore Galactica
I think
is the way to go.
Galactica is the place.
So do you guys think this is worse or less worse than Saddlesore Galactica?
I really don't like Saddlesore Galactica.
Yeah.
I think it broke The Simpsons in a lot of ways. But I think it had a lot of good jokes, at least in the beginning. Maybe not a lot. It had some good jokes. It had more good jokes than this did. And despite how much I like the Batman stuff,
I was going to say that Batman thing gives this episode a lot of points. I mean, not a lot of points, but most of its points come from the Batman.
Yes.
Most of its few points.
I agree. Yeah. I don't think that's enough to get it above Saddle Sore. So I think this is worse than Saddle Sore Galactica.
Bryce, you think this is worse than Saddle Sore Galactica?
Yeah.
So this is where I was thinking...
But I don't think it's worse than Lisa Goes Gaga. I think that's where it belongs.
All right, I was thinking in my head, I was like, oh man, I don't know if... Because the Jockey Elves is really bad. I think it breaks the episode worse. I think the damage this is doing, it's kind of like...
This almost breaks Marge.
That's what I was going to say.
Marge.
Bonfire of the Manatees was more of a personal thing. It was where Homer... I wouldn't say this comes as close as in terms of breaking Marge as a character. It is pretty bad. I think it's bad just to women in general, and just the body image shit. And the fact I don't think it was intentionally writing Marge bad. It was that Marge was being the ambassador for women in this episode. So all this body image shit kind of got lumped onto her.
Yeah.
Whereas they didn't make Homer a jerk. To show that all men were jerks. They made Homer a jerk because he was a jerk. So Homer was being Homer. That was a bigger misstep with Homer's character than I would say this was with Marge. I think there was more going on here.
Right.
But so, is that breaking the show more than the elves? You know what? Yeah, I could. All right, I'll get behind that because it's really. Imagine being a young girl and watching this episode. Like that's terrible.
I don't want to imagine that.
Like imagine being like a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, even older, watching this episode and like. You know, girls who watched the classic years growing up, and again, I wish we had some on the show.
One day.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm sure there's a lot in Lisa and Marge they can look up to. This is just downright offensive. This sucked.
Yeah. It was very poorly done. It was very...
Galactica.
And then, if we wanted to, I could probably debate this even going worse than Gaga, but I'm happy to leave it on this side of Gaga for now.
I don't know if I would get behind you on that one.
All right. Well, because Gaga at least is reaffirming women. All right. Gaga has nothing like the Batman.
There's no Batman in Gaga.
But at least Lady Gaga is reaffirming women and their self-esteem. Where is this the complete opposite? But you're right.
Yeah. Lisa Goes Gaga had a good message, but it was not. It was a
very
episode.
badly written, badly structured episode that didn't really make any sense.
This was a pretty okay structured episode with a terrible message that wasn't particularly funny.
It was funny and it was unfunny and offensively so at times.
Yeah.
Just poorly done. It wasn't the worst.
Yeah. It was not the worst episode ever, but it's close.
Its feminism entrance was bad, but their Batman was better.
That's right.
Yeah. That's an obscure Batman Forever. Yeah. So number 3, that's a pretty big deal. That Battlestar Galactica is getting a little higher up the list.
Yeah.
It's a bad thing. I hope
it doesn't go much higher.
It's a bad thing.
It's a bad thing for the fate
those
of
3
this show.
episodes after it too. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a good place for it.
Great.
So Large Marge, slightly worse than Battlestar Galactica.
Mm-hmm.
And that's gonna do it for this episode, everyone.
All right.
I want to thank you all for listening and for doing for reviewing us on iTunes and spreading the word about the show. We really, really appreciate that. You guys are really terrific about that stuff. But if you haven't reviewed the show and you do like us, why don't you go on that iTunes? Give us one of those 5-star reviews. They help us out. If you have a terrible Simpsons episode you'd like to suggest as the worst episode ever, please email us at worstepisodepod@gmail.com. Tweet at us. We're at worstepisodepod on Twitter. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/WEE podcast. WWE podcast is very different. That's all about wrestling.
And we'll try to give you guys, we're going to try to give credit to who's given these episodes. So if it's not on Twitter, if it's like through email or Facebook, give us a name you'd want us to use, just in case you don't want us using your real name. We get it. These aren't our real names.
Yeah, Large Marge, by the way, was suggested by a couple of friends of the show. A few people had suggested it. Dave, who will probably be on this show at some point, and Rusty, who will also probably.
And I know Bryce wanted to watch it. Bryce. So thanks again for
based solely on the synopsis.
Yeah. Thank you for being for your 2-week stint on our show.
Thank you very much for having me, and I hope to be leaving soon.
We'll let you out of the studio.
Maybe next week.
And just real quick, trivia. Brooklyn Trivia is tomorrow night. If you're listening to this the day it comes out, it is the first Thursday of every month at Berry Park Bar in Brooklyn. It's called Woohoo Classic Simpsons Trivia. I co-host that with friend of the show Dan Ozzie. And if you live in Toronto, Chicago, other fine North American cities, you may also have a trivia night. Just Google around for that. Next week, we're bringing it. Next week.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna bring it. Let us never say that we are not listening to our fans. It was overwhelming. You guys want us to watch an episode that aired earlier this year, The Man Who Came to Be Dinner,
The Kang,
we're doing it.
The Kang and Kodos one.
The Kang and Kodos one.
All right, so we're gonna watch it and see. I actually haven't seen it yet. So,
I haven't seen it either.
So we'll see what. Apparently, you
it.
guys didn't like it. So
yeah, as the episode was finishing, we started to get like emails and tweets like, "You guys have to do this."
And we love that.
We're doing it.
We love that you guys came to us, and please continue to do so, especially if you see some more horrible episodes on Sunday night.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. Oh, if you do want to support the show, you can also go to our website and click through on Amazon banners. Have we hammered that in enough?
Yeah,
yet?
buy some pickles. Buy some pickles.
Buy some pickles.
We still haven't figured out how to end the show, so we're going to let Brice end it today.
Great job, Brice.
You're listening to Radio Disney. The songs you love, rewritten for babies.
Who let the milk out?
Yuck, 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 yuck. Dad, let the milk out. Yuck, 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 yuck. That's good satire. It doesn't hurt anyone. What do you think, man?
Yuck, 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 yuck.